Good morning, sleepyheads. Wait, wrong intro. Fellas and fellettes, 50 days, 50 states, and over $11 million raised for St. Jude Children's Hospital. And somehow, they still had time for jammy time. Wait, guys, I actually have to admit something. I actually don't own any pajamas.
Huh?
Sorry. This is how Ryan Trahan took the simple idea of a road trip fundraiser and turned it into the perfect YouTube series. In the summer of 2025, Ryan and his wife Haley set out on an ambitious journey to visit all 50 states in 50 days. Every day they traveled to a new state and stay in a new Airbnb, and documented the entire experience on YouTube through 50 different episodes daily. And they did all of this while raising money for St. Jude. And it wasn't just a fundraiser though, it was a massive event that was just a ton of fun. There were twists, turns, character arcs, all sorts of incredible things happened during this series. And who can forget the Wheel of Doom? The Wheel of Doom was a light up mystery box, and anytime somebody donated $50,000 to St. Jude, the wheel would light up, and then they would have to spin the wheel, and Ryan and Haley had to complete whatever they actually ended up spinning. On the wheel were a ton of different punishments that would set them back on their journey to try and get them to basically fail their 50-state attempt. And there was also a small chance of a golden ticket, which allowed them to basically play the golden ticket if they got it, and they were safe from any Wheel of Doom punishments for 24 hours. And if somebody donated $100,000, they actually got to choose the punishment or the golden ticket directly, whatever they really wanted. The punishments never were that harsh, to the point where it was like, okay, they're gonna fail, because we all wanted to see them complete the actual challenge. But you could tell the Wheel of Doom was still making Ryan and Haley pretty antsy sometimes.
We're not doing new state unlocked because the Wheel of Doom has been activated.
I think more so it was more of just an inconvenience on their road trip than anything, but that still can get annoying after 50 days. Especially when there's something like the split. The split was probably the worst punishment on the Wheel of Doom. Basically, Ryan and Haley had to find a completely different way to get to the Airbnb that they were headed to. They would essentially split up and go different ways to get there. And when this happened a few times, Ryan was left with his e-bike, which one of the big donors from the series gave him on day 3. And from there, he ended up succeeding and actually making it through the split every time it happened while Haley drove to the Airbnb. Instead of jammy time, it's kitty time. But on the real though, I want to talk about the genius of Ryan Trahan. The brilliance of this series does not just come from the series or the concept itself, but it comes from Ryan himself. If we're being honest, no one else could have pulled this series off in the way that Ryan actually ended up doing. And that's not necessarily because nobody else in the world could actually make this series. It's because of just how Ryan interacts with the audience and who he actually is. He speaks to the audience like we're a friend of his, and that's something that is very rare in the YouTube scene.
Good morning, sleepyheads. Wake up, everybody wake up. Here we go.
It doesn't feel like he's hosting every episode. It feels like we're being taken along on the adventure with him. And that really is why we root for him every episode. He's essentially created a rootable character, which is himself. And you can't forget Haley. Haley in this series just vibes so unbelievably well with Ryan. But even with the looming threat of the Wheel of Doom, no one wanted to see them actually fail this challenge, and it's because of them. In fact,
What the dog doing?
what? What scares you, bro? Why are you being schizophrenic? Goofy. Anyways, people actually wanted to help Ryan and Haley through this series instead of watch them fail, which was pretty incredible. Big donors started giving them the golden ticket once they donated $100,000 instead of choosing some random punishment to try and set them back. And honestly, that's how much goodwill this man has built. But yeah, it is pretty insane. Absolutely everybody was cheering for Ryan and Haley. There were so many times that things could have gone a different way, but everybody just was so happy to see them end up and finish the challenge. And honestly, does Ryan have any haters? I genuinely do not think this guy has a single hater out there. If you're a hater, comment below. You know, while I'm talking about this series, it would be pretty sacrilegious to not actually mention the Penny series from a few years ago. A few years back, Ryan went viral for his Penny series, where he tried to cross the entire US starting from only 1 cent, and also raising money for Feeding America in the process. But this series, the 50 States in 50 Days one, this was on another level. Bigger scale, a lot more heart, and a much bigger impact as well to go along with it. From creative punishments on the Wheel of Doom to joyful traditions such as the daily Airbnb ranking that we gotta see in every episode, and the nightly tradition of actually reading the donations while in bed at the end of every episode, this became a 50-day ritual for fans like me, along with just really everybody was captivated by this series. And I'll tell you what, the biggest surprise was even my mom was hooked. Her friend came over one night, we were watching it with her, like everybody was loving this series. And every night when she got home from work, she'd ask, where do you think Ryan and Haley went today? And we were both super excited to find out. And she and I were pretty heartbroken when it came to our home state, Wyoming. My man literally drove through Montana basically 90% of the video. Then he pulled up to the Airbnb in Wyoming, barely in Wyoming, and I blinked and then they were gone. That's it. Wyoming got robbed, baby. But I'm here to give us justice. Also, bro, the thumbnail got me so good. The day I knew they were coming to Wyoming, I was refreshing that page like crazy. And when I saw that thumbnail, I got so excited. It was literally a photo of the area right by where I live. In fact, look familiar? And so from that thumbnail, I really thought he came to the town by me. Turns out, the Airbnb they stayed at was about 4 hours away. Not quite the thumbnail picture, Ryan. So with all that said, I'd like to officially nominate us for the Most Scam State of the Series award. Quite an honor, but I'm making up for it a little bit, right guys? But if somehow Ryan, Haley, you guys ever see this, come back, I'll show you around. We even have 3 places to buy Joyride within a quarter mile of each other. Now that's living, baby. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this segment. This series didn't just begin and end with Ryan and Haley though. There were so many people involved in this thing behind the scenes along the way that it really just became a living organism of a ton of moving parts. The behind the scenes stuff is truly incredible when you actually break it down. They were making 15 to sometimes 35-minute episodes every single day for 50 days straight. And that is a ton of footage. A day-long footage thrown back to the editors every single day. They had 2 editors working countless hours every day pumping out these videos as they're filming these videos. And on top of all of that, they have a Starlink on top of their car so that Ryan can upload the footage to the editors even in the most remote places possible. And if you've traveled the US, you know there are a lot of dead places that have absolutely no internet, no data, and that is what's so impressive about this, is being able to get that footage uploaded. And man, shout out the editors, for real. Zach and Cohen, they were churning these episodes out, and every single one was the utmost quality. There was not a single episode in the series that I felt like they were just phoning it in for an episode. Every single episode was high quality, it was consistent, and every single one felt like a proper series that flowed together into one bigger arching story. And that was incredible. So shout out those guys, and the behind the scenes stuff is just really mind-blowing when you think about it. You know, in this video, I've already talked about the Wheel of Doom a good amount, but I think it's actually important that it gets its own section of the video. It was that integral to the series. The Wheel of Doom, or WOD, nobody calls it that, but we will. It wasn't just a gimmick. It was the perfect way to gamify donations while adding a lot of suspense and also a lot of comedy to the series. And the box itself literally had a character arc. Bro was so dramatic and silly. But on a more serious note, every time that light on that box came on, we knew as an audience that we were in for something wild. But somehow every single time that box lit up, it never actually felt like a punishment series. The series was just that good that even one of the most integral parts of it didn't actually just overshadow the rest of it. Instead of a punishment, the box made the series feel more like a ride. A joy ride. These are the best. Literally, bro, this is an addiction. Please help me. Nah, but for real, goated candy. I literally even brought a second bag with me, bro. I have way too much of this stuff. Okay, next point. Something else that made this series so perfect was the sponsors that weren't actually sponsors. And I don't think Ryan, even when he originally started this series, expected it to do what it did in terms of massive brands donating, but it ended up being truly incredible in that sense. Somehow this ended up not being a brand deal nightmare. A lot of these big companies saw this series as a great way to just donate and use it as a tax write-off essentially while doing some good. And I can respect all of these companies for that. And honestly, I'm kind of disappointed more companies didn't actually use this, because the ones that did, I think made out unbelievably well. In fact, someone already made a video kind of about this, so you should go check it out. I'll leave it in the description. You had companies like Starbucks donating, you had Airbnb themselves donating, and you had the two big top donors, one being Staple Games, who is only a 4-person mobile game company, and they donated nearly $850,000, close to it. And that is pretty absurd. And then the second highest donor was Electric E-Bikes, who basically joined the series on day 3 and never looked back, and then donated $10,000 every single day since that point. And I'm sure all of these companies I mentioned got something great out of it. And also, they made the series extremely fun too. Starbucks, for example, donated asking them to try their new drink, and they went and tried the new drink. Staple Games had incentives tied to their messages every day, basically urging people to download their games, and they would donate more money. And then once they started doing that, they also added another incentive where if you actually unlocked a specific state in their match collector game, they would donate even more money. And you know what's so crazy? In most videos, if you saw stuff like that, and just me telling you the concept of it, you would be like, wow, that just feels like a forced ad basically every episode. But it didn't. It felt more like a collaboration and partnership, while Ryan was basically giving them something and they were giving Ryan something. It was a win-win for everybody. Genius marketing though from these brands, don't get it twisted. And there were hundreds of other brands and small companies and businesses and individuals that were promoting stuff all the time through the end of day donation reads. You know, something that made this series so flawless is the repeatable magic in it. And none of this was just a random coincidence. These were all very planned out and also extremely smart. Like any great television show or anything, there were a ton of reoccurring bits in it, such as Jammy Time, the Daily Run, the Joyride Run, and the Airbnb ranking. Heck, they even wore the same outfit every single day for 50 days. They brought literally 7 of the same shirts and pajamas, which in turn basically made them feel like a character on a real TV show, which is genius. And of course, the dreaded Wheel of Doom, which also added some great repeatability factors in the series as well. Even if the punishments and everything they spun were different, there was still that factor of the spin itself, and the montage of actually opening the wheel every time. So earlier I kind of touched on how special and unique Ryan is and how him and Haley really did make the series what it was. But I think what's really interesting to note as well is Ryan is a very strategic creator. He is not dumb by any means. In fact, he is a very, very smart person in the content scene. This guy knows exactly what he's doing. But unlike people like Mr. Beast, who are super duper calculated in their virality and their videos, Ryan runs on what I like to call a friendly algorithm per se. For Ryan, it's not just about retention, it's about relationships. Relationships to the audience, us watching. He brings us along. He's very human, and somehow, despite working with huge brands and raising millions and millions of dollars, it never actually feels like we're being sold something. It feels like Ryan, throughout all of this time, through his editing style, is just taking us all on an adventure of a lifetime along with him and his wife. And how his videos work is so interesting from a big YouTube perspective. When you compare Ryan's videos to a lot of the other massive creators on YouTube, there is a massive polar opposite difference from most other massive creators. A lot of these other videos these days are so formulaic and algorithm and analytics driven that they almost start to feel robotic in a lot of ways. Like you can kind of predict what's gonna happen. It's kind of like watching a cheesy action movie from the early 2000s. Whereas Ryan is different. Ryan feels like a YouTuber. What YouTube was always meant to be. And yet he is doing this while gaining millions and millions of views through every single episode of this series. It feels friendly, it feels fun, and it most importantly feels like we're along for the ride. And that's very much where the distinct friendly algorithm that I talked about kicks in. In a Mr. Beast video, you feel like you're watching more of a cinematic event. Whereas in a Ryan Trahan video, you feel like you're watching a YouTube video. And I personally I want to watch a YouTube video. I don't want to watch a cinematic, overproduced event on YouTube. And he knows exactly what he's doing with all of this too. His awkwardness personality that he has, along with the iPhone animojis that he uses and the little tiny cuts that he uses and all of the sincere moments, these are all very strategic, but at the same time, they're very genuine too. And I think that's where the biggest difference of anything lies and why this series is so perfect, along with a lot of his other content too. His content itself, he knows what he's doing and he drives in a lane of his own.
One at a time. Drive it in deep and hope it sticks. Go!
But you know, this series and a lot of things on it actually went a little bit more crazy than I think Ryan or Haley ever even expected.
I feel surprised about the Haley TikTok edits.
Yeah, it is completely weird.
But Haley in particular became a massive unexpected star through all of this. Sports teams like the Houston Texans and PSG and even ESPN were making edits of her and like her little clip farming moments. It was so funny and so cute. But while this series was happening, my entire For You page on YouTube and TikTok was literally all just edits and stuff from this series, and I loved it. It was so fun. And the fan engagement to that level and brand engagement to that level made it feel less like a just YouTube series and more like a cultural event. And I think it is going to really sit in a lot of people's minds as an event for years to come. And a little side note as well on this, the Joyride candy runs were also perfect. I love that, and it was a great inclusion of Ryan with his own little bit of sponsorship. It kind of felt like a personal side quest inside of the big one, and I was rooting for him, which is kind of crazy because it was literally just a sponsor segment at the core. But he's a genius in a lot of ways, man. Marketing videos, he knows what he's doing. Ryan's music and sound design in his videos is one of the best I've seen as well.
If I happen to accidentally push Ryan into the water, that's a prank.
That's first of all. That's first things first.
And that's not glazed. That is just the factual truth. His sound design and emotions that he brings out of stuff are just really incredible. You know, on top of this series just being a perfect YouTube series and everything in it being absolutely incredible, there really is something deeper the more you look into this series as well. For years, Ryan traveled the world while Haley stayed home. But this time, she came with him. And honestly, man, that's what made this series so beautiful to watch, especially once Haley started getting a lot more comfortable in the videos. And then, at the end, on the final day of the series, Ryan played a video that he recorded for Haley before the series even began.
Before we left for this 50-day journey, I told myself that if we did make it to day 50, I wanted Haley to have a video that we could watch to celebrate something from past Ryan, just a video message, a diary, to let you know how I feel about you.
I can't believe you did that.
So cute, I know. I'm nervous, I don't remember what I said. Let's watch it.
And for all of us that watched all 50 days, this video was truly quite emotional.
If you're watching this, we went to all 50 states in 50 days. Not an easy thing to do. Every time we tell someone that we're doing it, they're like, well, that's not possible, right? I've been saying it a lot recently, but I've just had so many realizations of how perfect you are for me. You know, it sounds so cheesy. I'm feeling like a romantic. I never could have drawn you up. I never could have imagined a better person for me because you surprised me. You like surprised me in ways that I never could have anticipated. I'm getting ready to leave. I'm just so excited to experience that with you. Like, I'm just thinking, what are we gonna do in New Mexico? What are we gonna do in Rhode Island, in Massachusetts?
In the video, he basically thanked Haley for being his wife, thanked her for coming along with him, and also had some goals for the fundraiser that they were about to embark on.
Hopefully we raised a bunch of money for St. Jude. The dream is $1 million.
Mission accomplished, Ryan. Well done. But something underrated that we must not forget is 50 days of travel is unbelievably tiring. 50 days of driving, 50 days of filming, and you gotta make a complete video and review it at the end of every single one of those days. It had to be absolutely exhausting, if we're being honest, and they never let it show, which is just a testament to the people they are and how hard Ryan actually works. And now that the series is complete and we can look back on all of that, we can now defiantly say that they carried this summer on their backs. But overall, Ryan didn't just make a viral series. He created a story that we could live in, characters that we actually rooted for through this series, and a cause that we all wanted to support. And it was special, and some, including myself, might even say perfect. And I challenge absolutely anybody else watching this or anybody else on the internet to even try to make a YouTube series close to as perfect and truly incredible and technical as this series. It's a tall feat to accomplish. But with all of this said, it really does lead me to the question, how do you follow it up? What's next? First, a few years back, it was pennies. Now it's states. Next up, countries, Ryan? Whatever Ryan dreams up next though, or probably already has in his mind with how smart he is, I know one thing, we will all be along for the ride. Honestly, I don't know if Ryan's gonna be able to replicate the specialness of this. He, I'm sure, will have another great banger series that we will all enjoy a ton. But this one specifically is just kind of a first of its kind, and sometimes the first version of something just can't be beat. But man, I think I speak for everyone when I say I'd love to see him one-up himself again. Final jammy time! Set up jammy time. Jammy time. The Wheel of Straggler, 1 minute.
Hello.